Greetings, Genevieve! This is the early 20th century equivalent of a gore comedy.
And in particular, Reanimator. The only part of it, and I'm not sure it's meant to be funny. In fact, it's probably not supposed to be funny. So I should start over.
Greetings, Genevieve! This is a movie called Maniac. There's a copy on the floor. And I have it on good authority that it's dancing like it's never danced before. Yeah, it's never danced before.
On the ice blue line of insanity, it's a place most never see. It's a hard-won place of mystery.
Just a heads up, if you only hear the film's audio coming out of one speaker, then congratulations, your speaker is working. It's an issue with the film itself. I could probably fix it, but I kind of feel the filmmakers would appreciate the maddening effect on the audience.
Now, before you ask, no, this has nothing to do with the 1963 movie, or the 1977 movie, or the 1980 movie, or the 2011 movie, or the 2012 movie. Holy fuck, there's been a lot of movies called Maniac. And it's not even got anything to do with the 2015 or 2018 TV series is also called Maniac. It is, however, a rough adaptation of Edgar Allan Poe's The Black Cat. I can see why they changed the name, though, because I'm pretty sure there's more cats than people in this. This is from 1934 and is pretty damn weird and violent for the time. In fact, it's pretty weird for a great many times. It didn't include David Lynch. What? Like all of them? Because I'm a teensy bit doubtful about that. Many 30s movies have unique credits meant to grab the attention of the audience, because they've not yet worked out that civilized credits go at the end. This one's gimmick is apparently to imprison people's souls inside them. I mean, I can really get behind this idea.
Perhaps literally.
Just imagine all the pain that could have been avoided if someone had just trapped Adam Sandler inside the credits to Airheads back in 1994.
Still, this film's got some real dedication to the tone behind that. I mean, check out how the director spells Dwayne.
The brain, in and of its physical self, does not think, any more than a musical instrument can give forth melody without the touch of the musician's hand. And the brain is indeed the... Christ, this is boring. Hey, Steve! Steve, roll the damn words! Steve!
Good. If he hadn't died of lung cancer in the early 60s, I'd have killed him for slacking off like that.
This is the basic understanding of the brain that low-budget schlock directors had in the early 30s. As it is, it's a step down from fear. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death that's not even an orgasm.
There's a reason for that, though. This was written by Dr. William S. Sadler, a notable early 20th century psychiatrist who almost exclusively tried to cure patients with prayer, once concluded that a patient who thought he was an alien was actually an alien, and once created a cult.
What? He what?
The Chicago Crime Commission made a survey of 40,000 convicted criminals and found them all suffering from some sort of mental disease. Well, I'd love to read that study, because it sounds like they just declared getting convicted a mental illness.
Hello, are you in jail? Yeah. Did you do a crime? No, I was framed. Get the straitjacket, we've got another one!
Oh yeah, it was the 1930s. That was just part of the course, wasn't it? We open up in a psychologist's natural habitat, doing chemistry. I'm kind of torn between believing this guy's a scientist based on his hair and beard alone, and thinking his day job has been the lab mop, and he's fucking around while the actual scientists are out.
Tonight, my dear Maxwell, I'm ready to try my experiment on a human.
Oh no, it's a Dieter Lazar beta test.
Tonight, my dear Maxwell, I'm ready to try my experiment on a human
Centipede.
His assistant Maxwell is this guy, who we're introduced to as he looks into a mirror and is horrified to discover he has hair. Anyway, the boss has developed a secret cure for death, and being a reasonable sort, is demanding his assistant find him a way to test it out in someone in secrecy.
You know, I do not work under prying eyes.
Earl, are you okay? You didn't have this accent this morning.
You will find a way for me to work without detection.
The last time, the police followed my trail of blood and interrupted before I'd even finished monologuing. Hey, listen, man, based on all those captions and stuff at the start, I think I'm meant to be some kind of psychologist. I'm pretty sure I didn't sign up for this dead body bullshit.
How many times have you told me of your impersonations?
Okay, I'm now convinced the guy with the beard is choosing his lines via Bioware dialogue wheel.
The time has come when you can repay me for what I have done.
Turns out that Maxwell's not a scientist, but a former actor. His hiring makes perfect sense, really. All he has to do is act like a scientist, and if he's any good, it'll work. Of course, the pity is he was bad enough that he had to quit and become a lap hand to a beard with a crazy person growing out of that. Oh wait, someone's cat's about to appraise the film thus far.
I agree. Hiss! Hiss indeed!
I am pretty sure these two guys don't have hair but mood wigs. The fluffiness is directly related to how nuts they are. Anyway, to the morgue and its resident stock footage of cats. It's body snatching time. Hopefully, they'll soon explain how they came to be stealing a corpse from Paris in 1871. Anyway, luckily, they're in the starlit section of the catacombs. I mean, they wouldn't want to resurrect an Uglo.
This is the one. Here.
Maria Altura, 24, suicide.
Amazing what you can learn from palm reading.
I do like how he checks the pulse of the woman he found in the morgue before injecting with his reanimation fluid.
I mean, he wouldn't want to waste it.
The fluid's clearly not as potent as Herbert West's. I mean, it's not even green.
So they get busy doing something pretty damn dodgy looking, as just off to the side some guys mess around with the coffins.
Thank gosh. Them stiffs is getting heavier
No, that's just dicks getting bigger.
and more of them every day.
I assume you're storing them just off screen with your realistic morgue set. Okay, we've all seen bad performances, but have you ever seen performances from two guys who are so drunk they don't even know they're speaking English?
Between the gangsters and the auto drivers, we don't need another war to carry off the population.
You didn't even mention suicides.
Though, credit to them for randomly cutting in this half-second shot of a mouse going nuts.
They even got the coroner working overtime.
I love how he looked over, saw these two idiots, and assumed they were doing some totally innocent corpse fondling.
Say, did you see the beaut that come in today?
Did I?
She's the one that has the coroner doing the night work.
It's like they're filming a Tom Petty music video over there. Hot.
That bald guy is like Peter Boyle's alcoholism escaped and had its own acting career.
What? Special autopsy?
Must be.
For a brief period in the 1930s, autopsies were conducted by rubbing bare hands on dead flesh. All in all, it was actually one of the decade's less stupid ideas when it came to medicine. At least it didn't leave people lobotomized.
I wonder who that old Santa Claus is.
I wonder if we talk really loud, they might realize that we're here.
Clearly not, because 2 seconds later, the guy with the beard announces that they're going to steal the now former corpse.
I must get her out of here, unlock the side door, and back up the cart. We'll take her out of here.
The corpse of the young woman has been stolen.
Yes.
2 points. 1, why is the Bureau of Missing Persons involved in body stealing cases? And 2, surely this is a very quick case. 2 guys literally watched them rub the corpse like suntan lotion was involved, talk loudly about stealing it,
We'll take her out of here.
and then steal it. And naturally, being a 30s movie, only one of these points is even slightly brought up.
I'd have sworn it was the coroner himself.
I said slightly because it took me about 15 times to work out what he said. It's like he's trying to reverse engineer English using only a piece of Danish. He said that he has sworn that Maxwell was actually the coroner.
I'd have sworn it was the coroner himself. And he was a dead image of him. And talked like him, too.
You see, Maxwell's sudden sideburns and completely different hair wasn't a continuity error, but a disguise. And I've seen enough movies like this to consider this a plot twist.
Could you positively identify if you saw the party?
I wouldn't swear to anything now after being secured to the coroner.
And how could he tell you if he did identify him? Anyway, as happens tragically often, this man's indistinct drunken mutterings are getting even less helpful, so let's change the subject.
Why, Dr. Meyer Schultz is really a great research scientist. He's no body snatcher.
Well, doctors and scientists often have some queer things in their mind.
Nah, at this point it was just Alfred Kinsey and Magnus Hirschfeld.
Now, it might look like they forgot to get any coverage of this guy, but Nah, it's the 1930s, they haven't yet worked out where to put the fourth wall. Actually, what's going on is that the guy who played Maxwell is playing the coroner there, and they decided to disguise that fact by not showing his face. Even though, according to the plot, Maxwell, when he's dressed up, is indistinguishable from the coroner.
I'd have sworn it was the coroner himself. And he was a dead image of him. And talked like him, too.
Anyway, I've had enough of this crap. Back to the meat of the story, and apparently that meat is alive again.
With 24 hours complete rest, she will recover.
Well, I guess the medical powers of necrophilia are understated. Are those 24 hours plus or minus the time she was resting because she was dead? What do you mean recover? She was dead. I don't give a fuck how tired she is. If she's alive now, then she's recovered.
Think of it. Life. Like in a body that's sought oblivion. It's uncanny.
Dude is casually roasting the X-Men comics attitude to death nearly half a century early.
It's uncanny.
It's uncanny. It's just like that H.P. Lovecraft story that was published 10 years ago. But the really kick-ass movie version that won't come out for another 50 years. It was kind of weird that I've reviewed Reanimator 1, Reanimator the Italian art house adaptation, and this, which is accidentally kind of like a pre-make to the original Reanimator. I should really get on to reviewing the other Reanimator films.
You know, given that Lovecraft and this film overlapped for 4 whole years, it is very possible that he saw this film and had a terrible time. And he was most annoyed that they used the word uncanny when dozens of longer and more unpronounceable words would have fit just as well.
It's uncanny.
But not one word out.
What have I told you about monologuing in the laboratory?
So it turns out that the guy who put the science in Mad Science wants a bigger challenge for his next track, but one in retrospect is kind of smaller and less impressive than bringing someone back from the dead.
What I want is a victim with a shattered heart.
Yeah, he wants to become the first person to perform a heart transplant. And seeing as Dr. Christian Bernard was 12 when this was released, I think he could take him. Either that or he wants to find someone who was killed in Final Fantasy 12.
With a shattered heart. You will get me such a victim, Maxwell.
I need to perform another miracle, Max.
I don't care where you get it. From the morgue, from the streets.
Oh, sure, I'll just go outside and find one of the many corpses littering the streets after all the mafia shootouts. Actually, that sounds about right, depending on where this is set. He elects to break into local undertakers, and how? Shaft.
Damn right.
Hello, buddies! Have you heard the good news about your Lord and Savior, George A. Romero? Man, Mormons used to have extreme tactics to baptize the dead. They didn't even door knock. Hey, more cats, and it looks like they're fighting for the honor of biting the star. Good, carry on. Oh, he suddenly developed ailurophobia, the fear of cats, and ran away before either of them won.
Gotta say, I have seen stronger reactions to the Cats movie.
Outside, he runs past another cat, this one fighting a dog because they wouldn't want to repeat themselves.
What's next? 2 elephants? Actually, that'd probably streamline the plot. They just crush someone.
Now there's a pair of legs running down a path. It's like the Fresno Nightcrawlers practicing for the Olympics. Being all legs, magic, and imagination. They're natural sprinters, apparently.
Where is it? I couldn't get it.
I kind of love how he assumed Maxwell had the corpse hidden under his fucking suit jacket.
Coward!
The louder I am, the sciencier I get. Maxwell's not impressed, though. He's far too busy practicing for the Eraserhead poster.
Oh, you fool! You have failed me in the greatest moment of my life! Yeah!
Getting kind of close to threatening punishment anal there, Doctor. Look at his face. It's not the first time.
Anyway, the doctor, having done so much scenery chewing that they had to put him behind glassware to protect the camera, has come up with a new plan. He'll graciously forgive his bumbling assistant if he commits suicide.
Here, take this. Take it and take your life, and I will give it back to you.
I have it on good authority, my own, that Jesus and Lazarus had a number of conversations that went something like this.
You will live.
But luckily for Jesus, guns had yet to be invented.
Well, that is quite a music choice. A mentally ill person's dead. Let's waltz!
Dementia Praecox? Sounds like a Star Wars character. I'm assuming all this is wrong, and to tell me I'm right, I'm enlisting the former star of Psych Media, who I have an undefined relationship with, the Omega Geek.
The hell? What are you doing? I'm making dinner.
Silence. I want you to look at this and tell me how wrong it is.
But I'm busy, and I mean, just...
I'd listen to her if I were you.
How are you even doing that?
Oh, please. This is not the weirdest thing you've had to deal with me doing.
Okay, true. Yeah, you got a point. Okay, alright, I'll talk about the thing. First of all, there are not the Psychoses. It's not a 1960s musical act. Dementia Praecox will be renamed schizophrenia or split mind, but it's better to speak in terms of psychosis itself. Psychosis is statistically actually the least experienced mental illness, and recovery from a psychotic episode is very possible. It depends on a lot of socioeconomic and socio-demographic factors, including access to care. Okay. This is actually a pretty good description of some of the major symptoms of psychosis. Blunting of emotions falls under negative symptomology, and they describe disorganized behavior, delusional beliefs, and paranoia pretty accurately as well. But I'd also include audio-visual hallucinations. Great, wonderful. Are we done? Because it's
Probably not. Don't go anywhere.
Oh, don't worry. He won't.
I love me sometimes.
But I can't go anywhere, see, because I'm making dinner.
Fantastic ideas. Fantastic ideas like taxing the rich, castrating homophobes, and a remake of Xena where she's queer from the start and Lucy Lawless plays Ares.
Oh, wait, I forgot. Fantastic can have more than one definition. It's clearly talking about the Miles Teller rebut.
Murder. And of my benefactor.
Dude, he was many things, but he wasn't a benef. Well, now you got no choice. You have to either eat or resurrect him. Now, I'm fairly sure this has happened to all of us at some point or another. His guilt is attacking him in the form of contextless clips from Danish silent classic Hagan, or something doing a reasonable impersonation of that.
Say, if I had half the chance, I could do a whole dramatic monologue to this stock footage.
In Meyer Schultz, the spark is gone. But in Maxwell, it lives.
Did he just inherit the guy's mental illness? Because that's not something you usually leave in a will.
Anyway, he eventually decides to try and resurrect him, and in an unexpectedly sensible move, quickly realizes that he can't do it, because while he is mad, and getting madder by the minute, he's still technically not a scientist.
But nothing to bring him back.
Luckily, someone always comes round to visit right after you murdered someone. It's like the phone ringing the second you get into a shower after killing someone. So he's forced to do something that's somehow even dumber than you'd expect. Quickly assume the crazy doctor's identity and start treating his patients.
Meyer Schultz would be missed. Maxwell never would.
Because regardless of what his ranting and raving might have indicated, he somehow has patience.
Dr. Meyer-Schultz, please.
What kind of patients? Well, the kind who think they're a murderer. But not just a murderer, but a fictional murderer. And not just a fictional murderer, but a fictional murderer who's an orangutan.
Of course!
Why, he thinks he's the orangutan murderer. In Poe's Murder of the Rue Morgue.
God forbid a furry of interests.
Tell the doctor I must have some definite help.
Well, looks like Maxwell chose the right week to go bug fuck nanners.
This plot takes all sorts of twists and turns, and somehow always ends up somewhere even more ridiculous than you expected. And I don't know about you, but I can expect a lot of ridiculous. Anyway, hopefully the patient and his wife, patiently. Wait, the 90-odd minutes it takes Maxwell to get into character.
I am Meyer Schultz.
That sounds nasty. Is it contagious?
I will be a great man.
I will be a noticeably taller and thinner man who looks like an epic rap battles of history take on Dr. Caligari.
And so that's the problem when people try to use psychology and fan theory. I mean, that's like saying that Tailspin is some kind of grand allegory for major depressive disorder, and that's just not the case.
That is fascinating. Omega.
Oh, I'm busy. I'm busy.
I don't care. Read this and tell me how it's wrong.
This seems to be describing catatonia, another bit of negative symptomology. So we're talking about lack of reaction, blunted affect, all that kind of stuff. And some of the cognitive impairment that comes with psychological distress. I'm not sure what primitive tendencies they think people are running around doing, but it is important to note that anhedonia, or the inability of the brain to experience pleasure, is a common experience in many mental illnesses, and that the most primitive drives, like pleasure from eating or sleeping, usually remain. That's just a matter of survival.
Ooh, very interesting.
I'm sorry. It's just, she's such a bitch sometimes. I mean, you know. I am so sorry.
So, apart from whatever this is, what does medical treatment for a 1930s exploitation film's idea of a mentally ill person look like? What is administered by 1930s exploitation film's idea of a mentally ill person who's pretending to be 1930s exploitation film's idea of a mentally ill person with a medical degree?
I'll give him a shot to relieve the nerve tension.
Are you sure? You've only got 5 bullets left.
Nah, a shot is an injection. Unfortunately, he chooses poorly and injects a poor bastard with an armful of adrenaline.
Super adrenaline.
Sorry, super duper mega adrenaline with blackjack and hookers, who are always up for it because of the adrenaline.
Oh, stealing through my body, creeping through my veins.
I can't adequately perform this experience. Acting. I can do it.
Pouring in my blood. Oh, darts of fire in my brain. Stabbing me. Agony. I can't stand it.
And rather than doing what you'd expect and writing down the lyrics he's coming up with and inventing stone sour early, or just quickly dying, the patient instead goes fucking nuts. Because about 90% of this cast is just fucking nuts, apparently. He then grabs the poor woman they resurrected earlier, who's just woken up, and just kind of runs off with her.
Oh, kidnap you like one of your French girls.
It is said that on a clear day you can still hear them, and their strongly insinuated rape scene. Glug glug, motherfuckers.
It was on this day that Edgar Allan Poe finally earned the "can you believe this shit" look that he was always photographed with. Like I said, every time you think you can work out what's happening with this film, it somehow goes somewhere even worse. It's like a road to Scranton.
What was in that hypo?
A whole Motley Crue's worth of a good time by the look of it. Anyway, this guy's wife is hilariously unconcerned about what happened to her husband, and is much more interested in the corpse she found in the doctor's office.
Why didn't you call the police?
No, not the police. I wanted to bring him back to life. I wanted to experiment on him.
Ranger Brad, I'm a scientist. I don't believe in anything.
Anyway, as expected by very few people except for the writer, all this leads to blackmail.
But I think we speak the same language. Am I right?
But not the sort of blackmail you'd expect, because she assumes that A, he'll succeed in bringing the body back to life, and B, it'll become his slave when he does so. So she wants him to murder her husband so he can be resurrected and become her slave.
When you bring your assistant back to life, his mind will do as you direct. You can do the same to Buckley, then he will do as I direct.
Why is she staring at the studio audience?
I like how she spends half her scene staring down at her feet, As though she's terrified she's gonna float away from her mark. Oh good, they've reached the countryside. I hope Maxwell finds the doctor's passport because they're gonna be in fucking Uruguay before he catches up with them. And they're taking periodic breaks so they can look their best as they run. The woman's hair changed colour and her tits are bigger. And this is infuriating him for some reason.
Oh, howdy, Doc. Say, a couple of my cats got away. You seen them anywhere?
Yes, in almost every other scene in the film. And speaking of cats, this one's bored with regular cat-on-cat or cat-on-dog fight scenes, and is deciding whether he could take that still-beating human heart in a jar. And of course he can.
Anyway, Maxwell's decided that he can't bring the doctor back to life after all, so he's just gonna have to break him off the basement. But before that, it's time for another cat fight.
They've been evolving it all film, but now it's time for it's sure to be its final form. Cat versus gibbering lunatic. Though about half the fight is a stagehand chucking the poor cat in from off screen.
The rest of the fight, in order of percent, the cat changing colour, having its eye popped out, and the guy eating it.
Not unlike an oyster.
Or a crepe.
I think man won this round. I'm talking about round. The cat's eye is.
What the fuck was its father? And or mother.
You know, it's not often you can watch a film and think to yourself that everyone involved in making this is dead.
Good. And just so you know, they didn't grab a poor cat and pop its eye out for real. The cat had a glass eye. Which raises the question, why someone give a cat a glass eye? That doesn't explain the colour change, though. Perhaps the cat went to the same salon as the kidnapped woman. Or maybe they couldn't find a black cat that was missing an eye. Or didn't realise that dye existed. Or if they were feeling horrifying, didn't realise that paint existed.
Oh, fuck. It's just, I feel like she doesn't even really appreciate me, you know what I mean? I've heard the way she talks to you. You deserve so much better. Wow. I think that might be the first time anyone's ever told me something like that. Omega, your turn! Oh, come on, not again.
Paranoia is not a disease in and of itself. It describes an individual's thoughts, and it does occur independently of delusions. Now, someone can be paranoid for very good reasons, and without it being indicative of disorder. For example, people in prison display clinically relevant levels of paranoia, but that's a setting where being paranoid and being cautious is vital to survival.
Wow, that's really boring. Do you want me to teach her a lesson? She can't keep treating you like this.
He's breaking the doctor up in the basement when he's suddenly distracted by the early Italian film Il Inferno, which somehow reminds him that he's not quite done enough to justify this being an adaptation of The Black Cat. So naturally, he grabs the poor cat and breaks it up too. I'd just like to say that while Maxwell's entire arc is about being a violent, omnicidal lunatic, he did at least have the decency to break up some lighting in there with the doctor, so he can look his best for his discovery at the finale. Anyway, someone kind of resembling a police officer has decided that he should be investigating the doctor and Maxwell, and has started asking all the hard questions to their neighbours.
Do you know Dr. Marshall and his assistant, Don Maxwell?
Sure. They're sort of queer, I'd say. There's lots of queer goings on up there.
Listen, I never gave my definition of hard, alright?
Why, they even brought a dead dog back to life once.
Well, that sounds very remarkable to me.
Indeed. Almost worthy of its own movie.
But to my notion, those that monkeys with what they got no business to gets queer sooner or later.
Fucking hell, she's like a John Waters character 40 years early.
Why, I even heard a shot up there last night.
Why didn't you notify the police?
That's their business, not mine.
I fucking love her. Not only does she look like a dyke in drag, but she only exists to point out the weird shit and not give a fuck about it. It's like she exists to sabotage the rest of the film. Anyway, we solve the mystery of the numerous cats when they talk to another neighbour that has dozens of cats locked up in rabbit hutches. Because he's a genius, he plans on feeding them on rats, letting the rats feed on the cats, and then selling the cat pelts for profit.
You see, I figured out that rats breed faster than cats. And cat skins makes good fur. Cats eat rats. And rats eat raw meat. That is, they eat the carcasses of the cat. So, the rats eat the cat. The cats eat the rats, and I get the skins.
That might be the maddest thing thus far.
I somehow doubt this film had the budget to buy this sort of setup from scratch, so best case scenario, this is where they stored the short-lived stunt cats. Or worst case, those cats ended up in some shitheel fur coat. Possibly both.
Maybe. I don't know.
They still not run out of new characters to introduce, so say hello to this early example of a panty liner advert. They hadn't invented the blue liquid by this point because colour didn't exist yet. So they're just frolicking. Here we see the whole gamut of mid-30s sleaze. Lingerie, a bath, implied sleepovers, the industrialised hula hoop, and of course eating helium.
That reminds me, I have pressing business.
What was her pressing business? Ironing her amply sized 1930s-style lingerie and being a douche?
Say, wasn't there some guy in history that spent all his life looking for an honest man? Sure, in his day, men were men.
Even the female version of Jordan Peterson sounds like a fucking muppet.
Say, wasn't there some guy in history that spent all his life looking for an honest man? Sure, in his day, men were men.
Given that man was Diogenes of Sinope, the ancient Greek philosopher, her definition of real man seems to include fucking men, shitting on stage, wearing skirts, and irritating people professionally. Who'd have thought that her ideal man was Gigi Allen? Not her.
For a break. Why don't you ditch that ham and pick yourself a rich husband? Yeah, but a brave guy can sure get away with plenty.
Now, you might be forgiven for assuming they spliced a different 1930s exploitation movie into this one.
Not by me, though. I'm merciless.
But now, this is technically part of the plot. One of the weird sisters here is Maisie, Maxwell's estranged wife, and he's just inherited a fuckload of money.
Don Maxwell, personality impersonator, gets lucky break. Why, that's your husband, ain't it? Pipe down, will ya? Say, I wonder if he's still with that goofy professor.
So, movie, why isn't the Maxwell successfully hiding out from the police when this room full of people who spend all their time on screen gossiping know where he is?
But don't forget, my dear Maxwell, the police would be very glad to find you.
And we got a newspaper calmly mentioning that he's just inherited a fortune and hasn't been seen lately without mentioning why.
By queer quirk of fate, actor falls heir to Australian estate. This paper is trying to find him. He used to be around in vaudeville days, but we haven't heard much of him lately.
Movie, did you forget your own plot?
This only makes sense if it's either an attempt by the police to get him to come out of hiding, or the writer changed the plot halfway through and didn't bother editing the earlier stuff. That is a very highly evolved level of not giving a fuck for during the Hays Code.
Oh, fuck, not again. Omega!
Now bear in mind, I'm not a clinician, okay? But I think that if you just sat down with Teddy, okay? You sat down with him, you listened to him, and then you explained yourself, okay? I think he might forgive you for, chopping off his hands and replacing them with his feet.
I'll give it a try. I really do feel bad. Oh, I'll do this in the very traditional Scottish way then. Omega!
Oh, shut up.
Yeah, shut up.
Actually, no, mate. I'll take a look. The sooner I do it, the sooner I can get out of here.
The sooner we can get out of here.
Manic depressive disorder doesn't exist anymore. It's called bipolar disorder now. And symptoms are not consistent with psychosis at all. There are only two phases, manic and depressive, as this theoretical mixed phase would just describe someone's normative behavior. And yeah, I guess that is a pretty accurate description of some experiences people have during a manic episode. Well, some people do experience a general lowering of inhibitions and have described engaging in high-risk sexual behavior, such as consensual encounters with strangers, encounters without using protection, or encounters which they later regretted. There is absolutely no connection between mania and committing sexual offenses.
Anyway, we seem to have interrupted something without any context, but with some phase to make up for it. Fascinating. Let's skip it. So Maxwell concludes that his estranged wife wants to murder him. And why? Because he saw a gleam in her eye.
The gleam.
The same gleam he saw when the doctor wanted him dead, and when Miss Buckley wanted him to kill her husband.
Alice had the gleam in her eye when she wanted to find me.
Here's the thing though, the only previous mention of this gleam was around the time he was turning the cat's eye out.
But the gleam is gone.
This, united with the fact that he's clearly a lunatic, leads me to conclude that he might be a bit nuts. In the early exploitation movie, attempting to depict every fucking mental illness in a row using silent movie villain tropes kind of way. You know, he is really lucky he's not been out in the rain, or his hair would turn to batter and he'd probably be rumbled. I say probably because nothing's straightforward in this. He decides to talk both his estranged wife and Mrs. Buckley into murdering each other in the basement, which obviously results in a human-on-human cat fight. I'm thinking the footage was used to trick 1930s content ID bots, which were all a small impoverished child called Jimmy. Anyway, time for the cops to finally arrive. Why? Doesn't really matter, it's too dumb to comment on, but I will anyway. This guy looked into the house and saw that there was trouble afoot, even though it was all happening in the basement, so he couldn't see it. And then the cops were instantly on their way.
What is that?
I believe that's called the ECW Women's Championship.
Man, you're crazy. What kind of a place is this?
Oh, I'm crazy, am I? If I was crazy, would I scream so loudly? Would I flail quite so much? Would I have assumed the identity of a literal mad scientist? There's no good answer to that, so the cops break up the fight, and someone finally cues up the cat behind the wall.
What's behind this wall?
An Edgar Allan Poe performance.
I love the classics. This I gotta see. And that, as they say, is that. This is easily the most entertaining 1930s exploitation movie I've reviewed. It's not the best, far from it, but for once it's more interesting than the concept. The script and performances, while shit, are hilarious, and it's about as deranged as the main characters. This is about as close as you can get to a true 1970s style exploitation, but 40 years earlier.
Oh, fuck. Omega, I need you to... What the fuck? I'm leaving you, Hagan. The off-screen version of you appreciates me for me, not my knowledge of psychology and sometimes body disposal. Oh, is that what you did? Oh, P.S. Dinner is currently burning. Oh, fuck. No, it's serious. Yeah, well, joke's on you. The off-screen version of me doesn't even have a body you can dispose of. I'm the Amanda Hog, and I live with it every time.
I'd just like to thank you for watching and to apologise for the variable audio quality of my voice over this episode. I got very sick partway through and just had to make do. Hopefully it didn't affect your enjoyment that much. Though if anything, the show does seem to rather opposed to enjoyment. Oh, and if you've not already done so, like, subscribe, ring the bell, etc, etc. Leave a comment, YouTube likes that for some reason. And if you want to, check out the Patreon, Ko-fi, and Discord. You keep the show going. All of you. Subscribers, casual viewers, patrons, all of you keep the show going. And I appreciate the fuck out of you all. Thank you.